I'll advise doing that if you want to all ensure that your phones are on Do Not Disturb. That would be wonderful as well. That's why I put my phone behind. Because it rings the bells. Right, so with that 1 o'clock, I will declare the meeting open. Welcome to council members to the table. Members of the public watching via live stream, welcome, and Emma, to yourself up there, and also to our guests that are sitting down there from the Department of Conservation, and welcome to everybody. So the opening karakia. Kia hora, te marino, kia whapapapa, punaru te moana. Hei hurahai, ngā tātou, e te rangi nei, araha atu, araha mai, tātou ie, tātou katoa, uie, tauke. Now apologies, we have no apologies, so we'll move through that to the declarations of interest. Councillor Casson has added a Hokitika Cycling Club committee member to that, and as far as we're aware, that is the only change that has been made or needed to be made on that. But as always stated, please keep that current. We have no urgent items on the agenda, so we'll move through to the minutes of the previous meetings. So the ordinary council meeting minutes of 27th June 2024. Resolution is that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on 27th June be confirmed as a true and correct record of that meeting. By the mover and seconder, please. Councillor Baird, thank you very much. Seconder, Councillor Glett, thank you. All in favour? Aye. Carried. And I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed ordinary council meeting minutes of 27 June 2024. Right, so moving on to the action list. Acting Chief Executive, Scott Baxendale, to speak on this, please. Thank you, Scott.
Your Lordship, Councillors, good afternoon. Item 1, Packet Waitara Building, the report on the geotech from Merritt Sinclair has been delayed, and we should have it in time for the next meeting so we can present the paper. It does become a little bit moot based on the fact that council has determined that it wishes to sell the building in the LTP next time around. Hokitika Gorge Bridge, we've got colleagues from DOC here today who can give a presentation to council to update on the process, but from my perspective it's moving as well. And then finally, on the Community Housing Trust, I met with the Chief Executive of Westbury last week, and we had what I described as a constructive conversation about a whole range of matters relating to affordable housing and land levels. And he's going to go away and have a think about what he wants to do and come back with a proposal of it. So,
Scott, thanks for that. Keen to have an update as to why that report from Merritt Sinclair is delayed another month. It was the same update last month that it was coming for a month prior, and now we're hearing the same thing again. Is there a reason?
The report, well, the primary one that we wanted to get out is the report for this building, which is on today's agenda. And we basically said to them, look, the one that's most important is this one. Which has delayed the other one. Beyond that, I don't have an answer to your question.
So enough answer for me, thank you.
Any further questions for Scott? No? Yes,
yeah, just for the Community Housing Trust, I understand that's about meeting with Westbury, but have there been any investigations for available land from the council side?
We are in the process of putting together, on the council side, basically we're bringing a document to next council, which is a policy document on land disposals acquisition. And then what we've said is the month after that, which is September, is to bring to council a proposal for first stage disposal. So we're going to recommend some land to dispose of. The issue you've got with the Community Housing Trust aspect is land has a value. So if somebody says we would like some land, please, and effectively it becomes a notional council subsidy for that. And one of the conversations I had with the Chief Executive of Westbury was council may take the view, why would we want to do it with you versus any other organisation? There has to be some clarity on the decision making that sits behind that.
So is some of that going to go under the policy that's coming next month?
In terms of the land
Because
disposal,
we've already got a policy, haven't we, on land disposal?
we do have a policy on land disposal. We're actually tweaking it in terms of what are the principles that we would look at in making a decision around disposal of land versus this is how you do it.
So making changes to make it more suitable for community housing?
No, in principle, the idea is when council decide that they want to dispose of a piece of land, they need to take a view based on why they want it. Is the land strategically important to them things? Is it just a piece of spare land that we could defer the value of? Has it potentially got other social values like a community housing partnership that we can use it for?
Are those not already taken into consideration under the current policy?
I would say the current policy needs fleshing out. It's there, it does what it was originally to do. We want to just broaden it to help inform decision making.
Thank you.
So who is this community housing trust? Who are they?
Who is it?
Who are they? Yeah.
Well, they don't exist yet.
Don't exist.
No. I mean, that was the nature of the discussion, which is it's an idea that exists. That idea needs to be fleshed out.
Well, this one I just heard, I heard West Street, so I want to know who they are. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's West Street.
Yes.
Well, no,
No.
he's been contracted, through Worship, he's been contracted separately, through DWC.
Yes, that's correct.
And
That's correct.
yeah, and he's working on this as aside from history.
Important assumption to be made.
All right, I'll keep an eye on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. So with that, can I move that and a seconder, please, resolve that the updated action list from the Chief Executive be received. Councillor Kesson, Councillor Burden, thank you very much. On favour? Carried, thank you. All right, presentations. We move on to the Hokitika Gorge Swing Bridge project and welcome Cameron Jones and Jason Davidson from Department of Conservation to speak to this item, please. Welcome, gentlemen.
Madam Chair, I might just go first, if that's okay.
Sorry, I've missed somebody out with the introduction.
Yeah, Tim Shaw. Kia ora tātou, my name's Tim Shaw, I'm the local, at the moment, acting operations manager for the Hokitika district, and the bridge falls within our district, so that's why I'm here facing this. I haven't been in the role for very long, and I haven't been involved with this project for very long, so there'll be some questions you may ask which I won't know the answer to. First up, apologies, we were hoping to get to the last council meeting. Couldn't quite get 3 people to line up their diaries, so we're here now. It's probably actually worked out quite well because there's been a bit of progress in the meantime in terms of the documents being lodged, so yeah, I think it's probably zero delays worked out better. This is what I might do a quick little introduction if that's all right. I think we've got 20 minutes, half an hour assigned to
You've
this.
got 30 minutes, yes.
Yeah, cool. We said we probably wouldn't fill that, but we probably will. I guess, so yeah, I've introduced myself. To my left, I've got Jason Davidson, who's our regionally based engineer, and to my right, Cam Jones, who is the senior works officer. So he's had a heap of experience in project managing projects of this kind and building them. So that's why they're involved in this project. I guess my understanding of what we're here to do today is to give an update of the progress so far, explain an indicative timeline which is attached to that presentation you guys would have all seen already, and then to answer your questions. And like I say, we'll do our best to answer those, but if we can come to you with some answers, yeah, we'll do that as well. I guess bigger picture, I'm probably speaking to people who know all of this, but just thought it's useful context before Jason delivers a presentation. The Hokitika Gorge attraction covers both public lands administered by the department and by the Western District Council. We've got discrete responsibilities up there, but we also have a long history of a shared partnership to managing that site, and I guess that's where this shared project with the lower Hokitika Swing Bridge came from. context. For this specific project, as part of the background to this, like I said, I'm a bit new to it, so there was an MOU signed late in 2023, and I guess the fundamental of that is it's a partnership between District Council and the department to get this thing done, and the department's contribution is basically support in kind. Is most people familiar with the MOU? I think it might be useful for me to go through some of the quick points in here, which really form the basis of what you guys are talking about. It won't take long. I guess DOC's going to be responsible for the bridge design, construction, monitoring and project management, providing the construction drawings, obviously the design, technical specifications, and then getting the documents to the point of GETS and the tender process. The council then takes over with the procurement of services, and you'll work then also around the tender process. And those were the key things that jumped out at me, but then the ownership of the asset and stuff all sticks, and the main resources to pay for it is sitting with the council. That's what I read as the important basis of this thing. Any questions for me before I hand it over to Jason?
Oh, good, thank you, Tim.
Right, so what I'll do is I'll just talk through the concept, what we've come up with. So you'll see on the screen there, it's a little bit small, but that is an elevation of the bridge. So what we're looking at doing is another suspension bridge along the same alignment as the existing. Just step back a little bit, the suspension bridge in that location is really the only sort of technically and economically feasible option in that location because of the span and the topography that we're dealing with. So what we're looking at doing is we're looking at building in the same location, and we're looking at fitting our structure basically through the existing structure. So there's a few benefits in that. The main one is through constructability. So when we build suspension bridges, if we're to build one on a greenfield site, there's a lot of rope access work. It's quite tricky and quite slow work. So what we're looking at doing here is utilising that existing structure as a temporary work platform during construction. So see on the drawing there on the left-hand side, we've got a new tower which sits about 1 metre back from the existing, and on the right-hand side, true right, it sits immediately in behind. They're both slightly higher, and our cable's draped through over top of that existing structure. Our anchor blocks on the true left are slightly forward of the existing. They're going to look quite similar to the existing ones, and then we've got a large lump of concrete on the rock. We're going to anchor through that in turn and then anchor down into the rock. And same on the true right, although they're up and behind the existing. So can't read the number there, but the existing deck, I think, is roughly about 700 mil above the existing. So that is for that construction. Constructability, and also it gives us a little bit more flood clearance. So flood waters in that gorge, if it is a bit of a bottleneck, we do get some quite high flood levels in there, so that helps deal with that. That's probably about it on that slide. Do I control that, or is it? Yep.
There should be a little forward.
Just on. Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll let Cam talk about the project timeline, and then I'll get back to some of the sort of finer details around the design.
All right. So initially, at our first meeting with council, this is prior to establishing a rough order cost and so forth. Timelines were thrown about. You know, everybody had the best intentions to try and see if we can achieve a construction date prior to Christmas, start of this summer. Obviously, subsequently, since then, funding approval has taken place. We've then sat down after the funding approval, as we do in our normal process, and then produced a timeline based on that, along with the other factors thrown in there, such as the resources, that we might have a few pressures on our resources at the time. The BT bridge is still underway, and a few other high risk structure pieces that sort of drags Jason away, unfortunately, a bit. So we're in a new revised timeline now, but we've managed to, the last status report sheet to the council mentioned we were looking at the end of February for construction. We've managed to pull this tender back about 3 weeks from what we were anticipating at that time, so we managed to get it out of 3 weeks earlier. So it's currently out of tender. It has a couple of weeks to run the tender process itself, and we have a site meeting with contractors on Thursday next week. We have 3 tenders coming to that site meeting. 2 of them are well known to us, the other one not so much so. So it'll be a good competitive tender, and then the tender's closing on the 15th of August. So based on that timeline, we've given them another 6 to 8 weeks for them to get stocks together after negotiations and award a contract. And we're hoping that we'll be able to negotiate with one of these suppliers that we can at the very least, have a drilling rig and start drilling the rock anchors before Christmas on site, so that we have some sort of good news progress. And then when they come back, they can do the superstructure, which is pretty straightforward. So that's our estimated timeline there. The timeline also is taking into account that we need to think about the fact that the current blast bridges being built out there in the industry is there's only a small number of suppliers. So there's one big supplier who hasn't actually put their name down for interest in this job. Obviously, we've just got too many bridges going on. So we will be hamstrung by whatever the suppliers come back with us in the timeline, and that means we sit down and negotiate the best we can, best outcomes for everybody. There's also some other items that we have made purchases. We have a contract with Shaw's for the supply of the spelter sockets. They come from Switzerland. They're a long lead item, they're 4 months, so that's in place. So that assures we have those ready for the tenders by end of October, November, early November. It's $41,000 worth of spelter sockets. We'll come and get endorsed those at a later date. And we also have the main cables in stock with Shaw's, the department does, which the council will then purchase from us as well, depending on the amount of cable that gets used by contractors. So that's, we're still hoping in the perfect world that the 21st of January would be a nice timeline to have this delivered. Once again, it will come down to our suppliers to be able to best negotiate it. The bridge itself is technically not a difficult build in terms of lots of bridges that have been built, and there's low risk for these contractors with this bridge site compared to the majority of those remote locations. So we're hoping that that may help speed us up here as well. That's pretty much on the timeline, but I could chat with you on that anything about the rough water costs. I mean, we put a rough water cost on this bridge initially. It was based on 9 bridges that have been built previously, including the Heath and Lewis bridges that have just been finished construction. We based the rough water cost on this one on a per metre rate across those 9 bridges at the highest per metre rate, and then we added another $1,000 per metre to it. So we're still pretty comfortable that tenders prices should come in well under the final rough water costs that we provided, and within the budget, of course. Yeah. And there you go.
I'll just quickly run through some of the key design features of this bridge. So this bridge has, or the proposed new bridge has been designed for a uniform deck loading of 4.5 kPa. So that is roughly 450 kilos per square metre. So that's quite a significant jump on the existing bridge. That load's specified in the NZTA bridge manual, and that's for an unrestricted structure. So what that means is we won't need to signpost this for a restricted number of people. So it reduces the risk around bridge overloading. The bridge has an access width of 1.2 metres. It's got a stiffened timber deck, so the existing bridge that's out there, you know, when you walk across it, it really does bounce quite a bit. What we're looking at doing here is the same as the upper bridge, which has, it looks like it's got the same deck on top, but it's actually got
a couple of recently grunty joists running down either side, which helps stiffen it up, and they basically spread the load out to multiple hangars rather than just the 2 adjacent hangars. So it should be a lot more stable for people walking over. Cam just talked about the Spelter sockets from Switzerland. We're using FATSA spiral strand cables. They're Swiss made as well. And you can see in the image there, the bottom one is a cross section of those cables. So the spiral strand cables have a smaller number of larger strands. That has a few advantages. The big ones are that they have a lot less stretch. So your traditional cables, like the image at the top there, over time there's a lot more void space in between the wires, and over time they pull in and compress, and you get stretch of your cables. The spiral strands don't do that. They're a lot more stable, so they're stronger. The thicker wires mean that we can get a better coating on them, so they're better for corrosion resistance, and so they should last a lot longer. So it's a bit more upfront cost, but whole of life cost should be a lot more, because it's a lot less maintenance. And they're the same cables as what we've used on the other bridge up at the gorge as well, the upper bridge. It's got a type A barrier, so that is barriers basically infill wires with mesh, so that barrier is suitable for the SST site and suitable for sites where there are children. And we've got deep rock anchors both sides, so we're looking at anchoring the bridge down with 6 metre deep rock anchors drilled into the granite, which again is similar to the bridge upstream. They are 32mm rods and a 125mm diameter hole routed into the rock. And feel free to ask any questions as I'm going to.
So the strengthening, because you've got a greater weight loading capacity on the bridge, so that corresponds out to a greater, more robust strengthening aspect on the
Yep.
land side of.
Yeah, so, yep. So, yeah, we've got a significantly greater load on this bridge. So, yeah, that filters through. That means we need, bigger cables, we need a stronger deck, we need much bigger anchors. The anchors on that existing bridge out there, if you're to believe the drawings, they are anchored with rebar starters, so standard reinforcing starter bars which go about 1 foot into the rock. If you did the numbers on that, it shouldn't even be holding up its own weight. So yeah, what we're looking at doing is something a lot more substantial. Yep.
Was it the upper bridge that took a lot more concrete when you're putting in the ports at one end?
We did, yeah.
More than what was expected, and how do you know that won't happen again?
Very good question. Yep, we did have that in a couple of locations on the other one. So we did a series of geotech investigations there, which were typically scalar penetrometer tests. It's quite difficult because of the location and access to actually get proper test equipment in there. So a lot of it was done by hand using a scalar. Kind of mapped the area, worked out, and there's visible rock outcrops and things as well, but we kind of worked out what we anticipated that the rock levels were, and it turned out on excavation that in some areas we actually had some large boulders, which through our investigations kind of presented themselves as being like bedrock. So we did have to excavate some more. This site here is a lot more straightforward in that we've actually got exposed rock outcrops at the surface. So where we're looking at anchoring on the true right, the rock's already exposed. We're putting our anchor blocks immediately in behind the existing ones. There's no topsoil, and that is good rock. And on the true left, we've simply got a little bit of shallow topsoil. So it's, again, we actually got a digger in there and did some investigation there, more investigation. So this one is a lot lower risk in that respect. And I just realised I just missed out too. This bridge has been designed with 100% redundancy on the primary structure. So that's quite a big one. What that means is on the existing bridge, if one of those cables was to fail or a key component was to fail, essentially the bridge fails. So if there are a bunch of people on there, they're going to end up in the river. This bridge here is going to have twin cables either side, twin back spans, so that's the cable from our top of our tower back to our anchor, and then each anchor block has been designed with minimum of 2 rock anchors. And what that means is we can take any one of those components out of that system, and our bridge still has full capacity. With one qualification, the deck. Our deck can't quite carry 4.5 kPa, but what it means is that failure, if we were to take a main cable out, is extremely unlikely.
It's stronger than pylons that fail after 3 volts.
And so that's also it's a consideration also for later on when it comes to maintenance as well. So with a traditional bridge like the one out there, if you were to take that or need to take that cable out to replace it, it's actually quite a difficult process. If we ever need to take a cable out to replace it on this bridge, there's no issue with doing that. They can actually go through, disconnect take the hangers off on that one particular cable, drop the cable, take it out. The whole thing's got enough capacity to support construction loads. Yeah.
I'm sure it is, but it's all fully accessible, wheelchairs and all that sort of thing.
Well, the bridge is 1.2 metres wide, so that is up to that standard. We're not doing anything to the piece of track down to the bridge, and that piece is quite steep. But yeah, if people can get down to the bridge in a wheelchair, then there'll be no issues with crossing the bridge.
So is there the possibility to have it zigzagged down? Because it's been picked off, hasn't it, in the past? I think that track.
Only as far as the first lookout, Jane. Yeah.
Would that be something that would be looked at in the future, making it?
It was looked at extensively when they did when they redesigned and rebuilt it, and Councillor Davidson might be able to speak to it better, but there was limited capacity to be able to take that loop, that steep bit of track out. So that's why it's only as far as that first lookout.
No, you're quite right. Just a question on the cost per metre. Have you got that there at all, Jason?
No, I don't have it in hand.
Yeah. So the other question is, could that bridge be used to stretch a little bit longer, same design? At the moment, it's how many metres across?
So this one, the new bridge is going to be 44 metres between towers.
44.
Yep.
And go further without changing the design?
You've got a side you want
I can see where he's going.
Yes,
Short answer, well, not without engineering, no.
Okay.
But this, this is a very similar design to the other bridge that's out there. We are changing the towers. On this one, we haven't got timber towers, we've got steel.
Yeah.
Main reason for that is the company that used to do those uniform diameter timber piles or timber poles no longer do them up to that diameter.
Yeah.
So I think the ones out there are 350, they'll only do up to a 250. We've got the steel this time. But we've done a very similar, it's very similar to the other one, which is 90 metres, although the other one wasn't designed for unrestricted load. That was for 20 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll slide.
Sorry, just on the back, one for Tim, on the back of Jane's question. If you went from on the new part of the track, is that not accessible the whole way through to the new bridge? From over the new bridge through the tree left to the river as you come down and round to the new structure we're talking about now?
I don't believe so. I think there's a couple of little dips and hollows that don't quite come up to that spec.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I think width-wise it's fine. It's just the gradient. Yeah.
What would be the life of the bridge, do you anticipate?
So the design life is 50 years, as per the building code. Now, that's not to say that there won't be maintenance in that time. So that is
is what we're designed for in terms of durability, but certain components won't reach that. In saying that, you know, the cables, they have quite a high spec coating, so hopefully they'll last at least in the order of sort of 40 years, that coating.
I guess the redundancy means that you can extend the life anyway. You could replace sections as...
Yeah. So the main superstructure, in terms of the deck, it's all treated timber. It'll last 50 years. Should last 50 years without any issues. All of the components, aside from those that are directly fixed to the main cables, are stainless steel. They'll last 50 years. So yeah, there'll be some parts that won't. There'll be some maintenance, but yeah, there should be no major maintenance for at least the first 2 or 3 decades. This slide just highlights some of the differences between the two. I've already talked about some of them, but the new one's a slightly longer span. We're going from 42 to 44, and that's just so that we can build the new one around the existing. We've got wider on the deck from 900 to 1200. It's just better for access. Barrier height, we've lifted slightly to comply with current building code, so that's 1100 instead of a metre. We've gone from a design capacity of the existing one's was posted for 6 people or 1000 kg. The new one's 4.5 kVA, so I haven't actually worked out what that equates to, but it's a significant load. And the old structure had no redundancy. This one's 100% redundant. And that's just shows a cross section. So the design and the photo is the other bridge which is out there. It'll look very much the same. The only difference will be the fact that we're putting an infill mesh on this one. We didn't put an infill mesh on the last one, so the site was designated at that time as a day visitor site. So under the outdoor visitor structure standard, which we designed the barrier to, need an infill. That has now changed in our system to an SST, so it does need an infill mesh. So we've got an infill mesh on this new one.
Jace, for our benefit, SST is a TLA. What does that stand for?
So SST is, Department of Conservation worked to a standard, which is the Outdoor Visitor Structures Handbook. It's a New Zealand standard, and that was developed kind of around DOC. And what it does is it categorises users into groups. So we start at the top, urban resident, which is someone walking down a path in a town, through to a seeker or someone tramping up a valley with little to no tracks. SST is a short stop traveller, so that is someone who pulls up in a car and goes for a wander for 20 minutes or something, not far from a car. So it's right at the upper end of the spectrum. So it means, for those users we provide better barriers designed for higher loads because of the likelihood of overloading, etc.
Are you likely to add mesh on the sides to the other bridge?
Good question. Haven't quite worked that one out yet. We don't necessarily need to, because it complied with the codes at the time. It's much like your house, building codes change all the time. There's no requirement for building owners to upgrade your house when the code changes. It's already been built into a code. But this is slightly different. Yeah, but this has only just sort of come to light, so yeah, it's literally just come to light last week, so you have it come up on the trainer and that.
Okay.
We've got one more slide. That's just a slide showing the existing anchor blocks, and you can kind of see there on the photo on the right, there's a rock outcrop in behind the existing that square concrete block foundation. We're looking at putting an anchor block right on that, basically carved into that rock. So that kind of comes back to that question before about how do we know we're into rock, we're basically going into that exposed outcrop. That's pretty much it. If there's any questions?
Any questions? That's great. It does, and it'd be very pleasing if we have it to come through finishing in January rather than February. Everything's a bonus, but I guess too is that once you've got the tenders in and you've got your head around that, we're going to get a pretty good picture of coming into budget or under with the additional cost to be built into it. So unless any of the tenderers come up with any anomaly that has been missed, but I doubt whether you guys have missed anything with that. Well done, and thank you for taking the time to come in and present. It's coming up, it's going to be coming up to that summer season very quickly where people are going to want to know what's happening with that bridge and how it's looking. So if we can keep, be kept in the loop as far as progress and stuff and keep a narration going out to the wider public, it'd be greatly appreciated too. We'll celebrate its opening when it happens.
Just on there, quite good maybe to get a photo of these guys presenting to council.
Yeah,
To
yes.
Facebook page, just so that there's the opportunity to update.
Yes, it is. Yes, good idea. That's right. Be happy with that, guys?
Yeah.
Partners.
Do you want to change a slide on there and
Interrupt you too.
I think just on that, the comment around the, getting it open for the tourists, I think Tim could probably elaborate a little bit more, but I think the numbers are still, they haven't really changed, have they? There's still a lot of
Yeah, in
people
terms of the use of the area, we haven't noticed a decline of anything.
No.
We've noticed an increase. So we've got, there's, in terms of the impact economically on the district, in terms of the numbers, I don't think that's a real fear.
No, I think if anything, we'll see it open up again because people want to go and experience the new bridge.
Yeah.
But I think that when it was first announced, there was that sort of holy terror aspect, but it was up to everybody involved in the tourism industry to make sure the narration meant that nothing's changed there. The vistas are still there, the walks are there.
Based on our own expectations of that site, as locals, we know what we had, whereas most of the visitors who turn up are just pleased with what they get.
Yes,
So.
yes. All up. Yep. Di, do you want to get a,
She needs to strike down for you.
probably should have given a picture of them. John can put that in with the picture, yeah. Thank you, gentlemen, for that.
Thanks for the invite.
Thanks very much. So can I move and second, please, and resolve that the presentation be received? Councillor Neil, Councillor Buda, thank you very much. All in favour of that? Thank you. Thanks, Sam. Carried. Thank you. And if we perhaps put a picture on of the suspension bridge or something, just to... No, because he hasn't got that. They've got the variables in there. He said at the time they didn't have that. But I think if they come back to us with an update, once they've got the tenders in to know where we're going to be sitting budget-wise, that'll be perhaps a key point that you'll be wanting to be aware of. Yep. So I'm going to be going back to them with a few other things for August, so we'll just make sure we have those updates as we progress through.
You've got the giveaway, they have given us that.
And it's a live tender.
Online now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Oh, just under that.
Yeah,
Good.
exactly. Brilliant. So now we'll move on to the road network and speed changes. Verbal report from Earl, please. Sorry.
Good evening, councillors. I was presenting because Carl was unavailable at the training event. Luckily enough, he's here, so he will take over and present.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors. This is really just a bit of an update on where we managed to get to with the speed limit consultation that we did fairly recently. Unfortunately, there's been some changes. There's a draft speed limit rule out for consultation. Well, it's just closed the consultation on the 11th. So that was out from mid-June to the 11th of July. The West Coast councils did put a submission on the concerns that we have in regards to the changes. There's 7 proposed changes to the existing rule, and I'll just go over those briefly. Number 1 being a cost-benefit analysis is what they're proposing to be required for any speed limit change. So the applications for that is even if a community really wants to change the speed limits in their area and there's been no accidents or crashes or anything like that, it's going to be very difficult to actually justify the speed limit change. So it's got to have anything that we do has to have a benefit cost ratio of 1 better to be able to justify funding the activity. So as much as some communities may want it, we may not be able to do it. There will be a strengthening of the consultation process.
Do you want to take questions as you have such
Yeah,
points?
well, we can take that as a couple of points.
Councillor Burden?
Through your worship, is that on council local roads or state highway? All roads.
So this is the rule covers all RCAs. So it's us, NZTA, anybody that sets speed limit, dot.
I don't mean to be rude and shoot the messenger, but that's quite disgusting that a community, I was at Southwestern Area School this morning, and again, they've got ongoing issues and risks there. Does it take someone to, dare I say it, die or have a serious incident before we can go and change something to support a community that's identified a point of issue? Southwestern Area School is a number around our district.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It is an environment change, really. People shouldn't have to be injured or killed to justify changes.
Correct.
To anything. If the community wants it, we should be able to deliver it without having to go through that process. I mean, we consult on the changes anyway, so if there's any resistance from the community, that's their opportunity to push back. But if it's one that's been generated by them, we should be able to enable that.
Supplementary question, is it driven by cost? If we were to fund it as a district council, ourselves would not draw down on the far rate. Would we be able to then go and do it, or is it?
No, because it's got to comply with the rules that are set. So anything that we do change has to comply with the rules. What it does effectively do, these 7 changes that they've proposed, effectively undoes everything that we've just done in terms of the consultation process. So we can't actually change anything at this point in time. We have to go through another process to determine what we can and can't change. It introduces a different level of ministerial involvement as well, which is quite unprecedented. And there's a big concern over that throughout the industry. And so just covering off onto the next point was the strengthening of the consultation process, which basically, anything that we do propose to change, we've got to do the benefit cost analysis for that. That analysis has got to be published for community feedback as well. Many people won't actually understand what that analysis is. I mean, we will, but it's another challenge.
Just Earl, if I can cut in, Paul, you've got a question for Earl?
Carl.
Carl, sorry. Sorry.
I just wanted to put some context around it really, because let's not forget that this is in response to what was considered by a large element of the country, where the community has been an overreach by the previous government. So let's not forget that. And also, when we talk about Southwestern Area School, for instance, it's not about horrors of horrors. There's going to be open road speed limit past the schools. No. It's just that it's not going to be 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's going to be during school hours and either side of the school hours. So there are, it's not as horrific as it might sound and could be portrayed. So I just want to put that context out there.
Appreciate that.
It takes away the local voice though, doesn't it?
Well, to what extent? I mean, the local voice, we did that consultation on the speed limits, and the grade unwashed out there didn't engage, did they? And just the ones that really wanted a bit of slower speeds in their particular area, and so that yeah, squeaky wheel, and yeah.
Worship, so I guess we'll have to come up with a dollar value for a human life to do a cost benefit analysis.
Sadly, I believe there is a calculation for that somewhere you can find, unfortunately.
There's a reason we don't have dividing wires and steel dividing every lane of highway up and down the country. We're simply going forward.
So yeah, change 3, which was one of the big ones, was a change to the rules around the speed limits for schools. So the previous rule was considering zones around schools, and there was an opportunity to either select a variable speed limit or a fixed speed limit. So what the change is proposing is variable speed limits only, and a restricting of the area around the school. So it would only be a 300 metre stretch in front of the school gate. So that's 150 metres either side of the school gate. The rural scenario is slightly bigger, and the speed limit, there's an opportunity to change the speed limit of the rural schools, so on a higher speed environment to set the area from 40 to 60, I think, from memory. With the urban schools was still going to be 30, but a variable speed limit. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can deliver that, and the feedback that we did get from the community did suggest that perhaps a variable was a better way of dealing with it, and that's fine. The two ways that can be dealt with is just signposting, which is not very effective, the electronic variable signs. Now the electronic variable signs are quite costly, so we're talking about between $12,000 and $15,000 per sign. So depending on how many of those we're going to need to acquire, there's a significant change in cost that we haven't factored into our present bid. So as I understand it, there may be an ability to seek further funding for that, but that's still unclear at this present moment in time. So item 4, there will be a ministerial speed objective. So this will come from the minister themselves to set a target, an overall objective, and that we will all have to try and work towards. We don't know what that outcome is yet. It's a little bit unclear, but it's getting into that ministerial involvement where there's too much strength put into it from that level, which is really the way it should be worked. It should be us making the decisions, getting the final stamp by the minister. I mean, they're our roads, not specifically the ministers, they're our roads, they're our road users. Patrick?
Just to clarify, this is also the Minister for Local Government, the same government that's crept through waters on the basis of local decision making, is that right?
Yes. Something a little bit slight, not quite so powerful, is the changes to the classification ranges of speed limits. What that means is where presently we might be able to select a speed limit of 30 to 50 for parts of our urban network, or 30 to 40 for our urban network, there will only be one option available, and it's 50. So we can't just say, oh, well, let's make this area a lower speed zone. Again, we would have to go through that process, but because it's not in the range that we could select, it's out of our control largely, unless we've got a very strong case for doing anything. So there's quite a raft of different changes. One thing, unsealed roads, setting a speed limit range of 60 to 100, or as opposed to what previously was 40 to 80. we've posted some of our a couple of our gravel roads. Dorothy Falls, as an example. You wouldn't do anything faster than that, and if you post anything higher, it really sends a bad message.
Yep.
So there's a number of changes there.
Just, can you give us an example of what's it going to mean to South Western Area School?
South Western Area School,
so the area, this temporary 30k signs are at the moment. What's going to happen?
It'll be a temporary 30k.
How long?
During the pickup and drop-off times, and that's it. Whether that be signpost or whether it be electronic variable sign, I think we targeted that for an electronic variable sign already, so it was going to be a variable speed. Not necessarily the same change for them. However, going to another real-world example, Canary School. Canary School, yep, presently sits in a 30k zone. Last time we made some changes, that little back block of streets, we gazetted at 30 kilometres an hour, specifically for the school, and it's a low-speed, short, narrow environment. It works. So with the new rule, we have to actually undo that. And it would have to go back to what it was before we made the change. Now the speed limit through there before we made the change, from memory, was 70. It was within the 70k zone for Canary. So we changed Canary to 50, and we changed that area around the school to 30. This was the seventh point, it was the reversal of the recent speed changes.
What happens if we just don't do it?
Well, funny you should ask, because I believe there's going to be a lot of pushback from Auckland and Wellington on these changes. I know there has been a lot of pushback from my other colleagues around the country that are very concerned about the changes. So we don't know what that outcome is going to be just yet. They may soften the approach on that. We just don't know. It's still being considered, so the feedback's been submitted and it's up to
What power are they likely to have to come along, and can they fine us? I don't think so.
I honestly don't know.
As far as I'm aware, you can't just unilaterally set your own speed limits as a council. Not least of all because the police have got electronic systems that show them what the speed zone is in terms of actually enforcing the speed limits and stuff. So
it's likely there would be a directive come from the head of police and or the transport agency to change.
So what happens to the Hokitika CBD area?
I'm not entirely sure. That may end up coming undone as well. There's still a lot of unknowns in this.
You could have 50k going down the one-way Rebel Street.
That bridge shouldn't be 100.
But we don't know, again, whether this is going to follow suit to everything else that the school has done, as in scale back and then reset and implement. We don't know what.
So the indication is that we are supposed to have anything that we've changed that needs to be changed back done by the end of the year. But again, we don't have a time frame on when the changes will actually be finalised.
Is it a coalition agreement demand?
no, this is National Park.
Paul, did you have another question? Sorry.
It was just another comment. Again, to put it in context, there's really another very short streets around there, 70 kilometres have to be for a super duper-charged turbo car to even get anywhere near that speed. So when keep it in context, and also this is in response to some crazy ideologically driven policy that was behind the previous regime of dropping this right around the country. So let's not lose sight of that. This is pulling back to the fact that we're still driving cars, motor vehicles, we're not driving horse and carts. And so we've got to get there from A to B.
Don't agree that it was ideologically driven.
I mean, I
in the
could
sense
feel
that
politics
we
is
made
ideological,
Paul,
otherwise it wouldn't be politics.
can we
So-
use other slowing down measures? So, okay, we can't change the speed limit to 30k around schools, but can we put islands in place or whatever, in the same way that Canary School does naturally lend itself to people going 30k anyway? So that one's okay, but can we do other measures like that rather than just changing the speed?
That's an interesting question, and there's been some recent changes in the government policy statement regarding that as well. And that comes down to the funding that's allocated for speed humps, speed control devices, speed islands, and so forth. So there's
Potentially cheaper than $12,000 for each variable speed limit sign.
Yes, potentially. So we can change speed by the design environment. But again, there could well be an increased level of funding required from the council side to actually get these things through. Because there's less support for the expenditure on those activities in the government policy statement.
But at this point, we don't know what sort of funding is going to be available for the variable signs anyway, do we? So, definitely.
Like I said before, it's very much a holding pattern. That's what the outcome is going to be, but it was really just the purpose of this was to give you an update on we have been fairly silent on that, simply because we don't know what's going on ourselves. So it's been a wait and see, and it still is.
So the time frame is to have all that done by Christmas, but we still don't know what we've got to do by Christmas.
That's exactly.
No money.
Like I said before, it's quite standard in that they're rolling things back, peeling back the layers and then putting things in. Yeah, and I think this is just following on from everything else we've seen to date.
It's not all of the changes by then, but there are some significant ones in regards to rolling back speeds that we've changed already.
So do you see that they are going to expect us to, I mean, basically everything should potentially stay as is, status quo until we know where it's going. They're not going to say we need to revert this back. But that directive actually hasn't been given at this stage.
Well, it's only for consultation at the moment. So the consultation's closed. We've submitted on that, suggested that there was a number of bad decisions that had to do with cost. When the outcome of that review is, it's not known at this stage. I tried to find it today, and there's nothing on the website for the ministry stating a decision on it. Possibly by the end of this month, where they just another decisions coming out from the Transport Agency on other funds regarding our funding. I would hope it's by then. If it's not, it's later in months.
There's a number of decisions coming out on quite a few things outside of transportation as well at the end of this month, and then some more in next month. So hopefully it's sort of a defined time frame for them going forward. Have you got anything else in it?
No, there was a couple of other things, but we've sort of touched off on those in the conversation points as well. So quite happy to send around some details on what the changes were and what our feedback has been to date, just for your reference. Other than that, it's pretty much where we're sitting at the moment.
What about the cost of reverting back? Who covers that cost?
That's why I don't think they'll do it.
So surely there's a cost benefit analysis needs to be applied to that as well.
Well, it's some of the bigger changes to parts of the state highway network, where the government made the announcement that they wanted to revert speed limit reductions on the state highway. They've qualified it where safe to do so. So somebody's going to have to prove that it's safe to actually roll that speed band. So there may be some changes, there may not be, but it's very disturbing the level of ministerial involvement that is coming into this.
unnecessary.
But it's highly unlikely, I think, that they'll say you've got to revert back all signs until we make our mind up and give a direction going forward.
They'll give a direction.
Thank you, Carl, for that.
Through the chair, I just wanted to address something Councillor Neil said. We can't design barriers and interference in a carriageway where you're putting in a chicane or something and you don't drop the speed because then you just send people up to the
Good point.
You're just not maintaining that line as a drive on.
Thank you, Carl, very much for that. It's greatly appreciated for that update, and then if you can get that information through, as you said, I think there's quite a few people around here that would be very keen to have a read and get their head around the situation, and also too, whether it's worth putting pen to paper and letters through, stating some more information and requirements by us. So can I have a move and second, please, so we may resolve that the verbal update be received? Please, Councillor Gillette, Councillor Baird, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried. Thank you very much for that. Brilliant. Right, so next report is the write-offs and remissions from Linley, please. Welcome to the meeting, Linley.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. Through Your Worship, I present the amended report to Council on the write-offs and remissions 2023-24. I take it that you've all received the amended report, and I take it that you've read it, and through Your Worship, I'll take any questions. Oh, just one thing for clarity, the amendments relate to points 3.3 to 8.1, where it's been updated for the current year.
Questions, please, Linley. Yes, Councillor Pearson.
We're keen to understand how we can get to a significant point where we can no longer recover it. It's only $11,000, but still $11,000, which is $2 per rate. How does it get to that point?
I believe a lot of that is abandoned land. Generally, we can take any of rate issues to court. When it's abandoned land, it's a little bit more difficult. And that would be the main reason that we do it. And the majority of that is actually penalties. 9,000 penalties.
I think that figure's trending down, is it, year by year?
Yeah, it is.
That has been a big improvement, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is good. Paul.
Through Your Worship, I just wanted to clarify around the rates remission on reserve land, because this comes up. Well, no one's raised it today, but it is raised every year. Every year there's a remission for modern reserve land rates. And every year we get the same hoary old chestnut. The Maoris get something for nothing. Well, in actual fact, it's not the case at all. This is for, as pointed out, for unoccupied modern reserve land. Why should we, as the owners, which in multiple owners, in some of these blocks, like 700-800 owners, why should we, as owners, have to pay anything to the council for a piece of land that was never ever in Crown hands? This land that never left when the country was purchased and sold it to the Crown, etc. These parcels of land, and there are only a scattering of them, were never ever in Crown hands. So for those who are critical of this, then just keep that in mind. In actual fact, this has had nothing to do with the Crown, this land. Never has, never will do. And why should the councils, I know you're required by law, but why should the councils be allowed to rate over top of it? Because then you have to come in and you're not going to get, until we start to use that land to get some benefit of it, then the council has no right, in my view, to be rating for it. Hence, you get these big fat figures in here every year for the rates of emissions on the modern reserve land.
The other point of interest too is
what the council tends to do is chase the ones that are on there occupying it, not the other 800.
Yes.
The task scheme was paying the rates for the land, which is the no bid. Which I don't, by the way. So you're not wrong, mate, you're not wrong.
Councillor Neal.
Yeah, totally hear what you're saying, Paul, and agree. Is there a way of removing it from the rates database, initially, like, go back a step, remove it from there so that it doesn't come through as an omission?
That's a question for Lisa and Lynn, I think.
Not under the output to read. It's not collectible, we have to write it off. It would be something, it would be better done that way, I think.
Through your worship, the government did last year, the year before, made some amendments to the rating relating to homes. But it didn't get done. It should have gone as far as what you suggested.
And that land has been made non-rateable. And that land has been made non-rateable.
Will you give it a go? It's not rated.
I mean, we should probably be pushing for it to be made unrateable as well, yeah?
Yes.
Otherwise it just keeps coming up every
Yes,
year.
this is different. This is different from dockland. You know, and Crown should be paying rates. But this is an entirely different beast.
Councillor Casson.
Supplementary to my previous question, what process do we have whereby we can claim the abandoned land or turn around that it's going to get its rates paid again? What legislative pathways do we have before us?
We can eventually sell the abandoned land to recover some of the costs, but there's a process to go through with that, legal requirements before we can do that.
And are we going to follow that pathway in this case? Thank you.
It's quite a process, so
I
it's
see.
not straightforward.
Any further questions for Lynn, please? No? Sorry, Councillor Peck.
Just, not really related to this, just general rates policy is, what's the process for reviewing the rates modelling? Our system of fixed rate rating and capital value rating components. Is there a review process that is, how is that defined and reviewed?
Review every year through the annual plan, that's like TP process.
Right.
That's why we've made the changes this time.
Right. Yeah, I think it's something that we should have a closer look at. I compare the rating model for Westland to, say, Christchurch City.
You can't, it's not apples and apples, it's totally different.
I'm sure there's some tweaking. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify
You're
that.
tweaking, yeah, but you can't compare it.
No, you can't go right down that path.
No.
Well, you have to make a comparison to even say that they're different. So it's worth saying.
There'll be parts that
It's a little bit bigger or worse than we are.
You can't compare it.
But you are comparing it even by saying that.
No, we're not comparing it. No.
We can look at this next year.
I'd like to have a discussion about it because the difference in rating between a $500,000 property in Christchurch and 1 million is double. But in Westland, it goes from 4 to 5. 4,000 to 5,000. So I know our valuation base is much lower, our percentage of high value properties is lower, but I do feel that the low value properties in Westland are paying a higher share of the rating burden than perhaps they should. It just needs a piece of work, it just needs tweaking.
And that's what we do every time through the annual plan. And we did talk about that through our workshops with you. So that's something we do every time.
Right. Okay. Any further questions for Lynn on the write-offs, on the omissions? Thank you, Lynn, for that. The resolution is that the amended report from the Finance Manager be received and noted. and the council approves the total proposed rates, write-offs and remissions of 225,779, including GIST. Do I have a move and a second for that, please? Councillor Monero, Councillor Phelps, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Lindy, very much for that. Thank you. Right, so next presentation is the Care Square Playground. Jan is in the back there. Welcome, Jan.
I'm just going to pass around a little thank you book that was created by some of the kids in Hokitika Primary as a thanks to the council for building the playground. It's not in the report, but I thought I'd just send it around if you might want to have a look at it. Right, I'll take the report as read, and again, I'll just touch on one or two little items. I've got a full budget breakdown of all the costs that was spent. There is a slight overspend of $2,000 on the project as a whole, mainly due to the ground conditions that was not favourable. That was an additional $48,000 that we had to do additional dig out and additional fill and compaction. There was a variation sent through by the contractor for $52,000 for the slope of the playground, which was worse than what they expected. However, we rejected that as that was part of the scope of works. So we ended up having a little, well, not a saving, but not paying for work that the contractor actually made an error on. On the playground itself, the usage has been pretty good. I don't know, I'm sure most of you would have driven past there.
Tickets.
We haven't had any complaints or issues thus far. There was the two little drumsticks that plays there's a green drum made of an upcycled gas bottle. They were damaged, however they've been repaired and they've been sent back. We should be receiving them today or today or tomorrow and get them back. Also, the torque tube on the inside of the tower was broken off. We've received the torque tube and we've asked the design team just to come up with a better fixing method, which they are sending through to us as well. So that'll be at no additional cost. They are committed to keeping the warranties and the guarantees that they've provided us. So that'll go back in, like I said, hopefully in the next couple of days. Other than that, it's been pretty good. Also, there's a communications board that was sponsored by Westreach that's been made up and will also probably be delivered in the next week or so. And then we can just plan putting that up. There is a placeholder in the design for the communication. So yep, open for questions.
Councillor Burden.
Yeah, and congratulations on a well-managed project. Just looking at the budget, there's no mention of the $35,000 that Lex Play Hokitika have fundraised. We not received that money.
I did not put the funding from them in there. Apologies if that's an oversight from my side. I can get a breakdown of that and send that to everybody. But as far as I'm aware, yes, we have received that funding.
So is that should come off this amount or
Part of the council.
part of the one?
The commercial budget, yes.
Gosh, the hamster wheel certainly features in this, doesn't it? Fantastic. Any further questions for Jan on this, please?
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Lafton.
Just on the, so the total funding from council was what?
510,000 from lotteries, and that was matched by 510,000 by council. Yes, so and then, like I said, my apologies, I didn't include the fundraise.
So council are putting in 510, that's correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
So then, on that, to Riley's point, if that $36,000 comes in, the project's running a positive variance, not a negative variance, because new money coming in.
So that reduces council's contribution.
So that's for.
We need, how's that accounted for is the question.
I thought that we're raising up for future maintenance so that we didn't charge fund depreciation. So it wouldn't go against project costs, it would go against the operating costs.
My understanding was it was both for the initial outlay and then for subsequent years around that.
We perhaps need to check that to define that and make sure we've got that correct going forward. So perhaps we can get that clarification point for next month. That'd be really good, and then we know where we're sitting with that. Sorry, Paul.
At risk of sounding like a Grinch.
Was there no library attachment?
But, I mean, while, you know, the backscaping and et cetera, and it's a wonderful facility, and so it ought to be for $1 million. Although I'm blown if I can see the $1 million doing it myself, but.
Let's pay for land. Oh, no, sorry, that
Councillor Swan.
But your worship, we need to remember, of course, that that $510,000 of this is coming back on the poor ratepayer at a time when things are very tight. And this is going to, in future years. Everyone's going to be paying for this in future years, and the depreciation for, you know, this marvellous new asset has to be allowed for in depreciation, which is, and on it goes. And so, yep, we've got $500,000 from lotteries. Yes, well done for the parents that raised that $35,000. But at the end of the day, don't forget, this was an asset that divided the town. And we have it now, and yes, it's a great facility, but as I say, so it shouldn't be for $1 million.
Thank you. I have to challenge the fact that it divided the town. I think that was, it caused some tactile comments, I will say, but I don't think it divided the town. I certainly think that having the community involved in the process and seeing the benefit, the gains that everybody has got out of the playground, everybody's well aware of the cost, and bearing in mind that this was already down the road when we, when we've got into the financial times or climate that we're in now. It's one of those things, but I think when you see the benefits that come to the kids, the parents, the grandparents and the wider community, we've got families travelling here from Greymouth, we've got travelling up from down south to come to the playground, and that I think speaks for itself. It's the wellbeing factor that one completely ticks the right box. Yes, there's a cost and everybody's aware of it, but we could have worse costs to incur on everybody, to inflict on everybody. Councillor Burton.
Just through your worship, seek some clarification from Leslie around Paul's comments about ongoing cost on the ratepayer. Can you clarify where council's contribution did come from, the 502,000?
I'd have to find out.
It came from reserves, didn't it?
I think so, yes.
Not borrowing, right?
I'll have a look, if you just let me have a look.
Okay, does somebody else have a question while we?
Just stating that the playground that was there was certainly well past its due date. So, yeah.
And I'll follow through too in that, Paul, your comments just now, I mean, you have voiced those each time we've had the Cass Square discussion, so that's been well recorded and noted. I know that.
You bloody Grinch. These kids here can pay the rates when they grow up. They will be.
All in today, Councillor Gillette.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you're saying. I think $500,000 on a playground, wait till we put our hand out for $8.4 million to upgrade this thing.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough sell, that one. So playground is for what benefit, the cost
We'll get to
benefit.
that item shortly, but I do think that there's obligations under the health and safety of water and district to starting in the event of an earthquake, probably worth considering.
It's a playground for the kids and a playground for the adults.
Any further questions for Jan on this, please?
Yeah, well done on a great project and, $2,000 overrun, but it sounds like that's not going to be the case. is pretty good. It's a serious overruns in the past, so.
I think it's really, it's really down to the cohesion between the communities, the working group, the input from.
And I know the time that you've spent up there making sure that it's, you know.
And I think that's actually where we've come across with leaps and bounds, is the fact that your oversight with the project has seen that everything's there, communication with KO and the team there has been excellent, and also holding them to task as far as warranty with anything that has gone, afterwards. So thank you very much, because your management has been brilliant. It's shining through what we have there. I've heard parents say they've got to make a booking to get to the playground because they turn up and it's absolutely chock-a-block.
Well, I've gone past and it's pretty anyway, with all
Right.
better perspectives.
So any further questions for Jan?
I'm not positive that's been in the right place now.
Okay, great.
Any further questions for Jan? Thank you very much. So the resolution is the report and appendix be received. The mover and seconder, please. Councillor Beard, Councillor Beard, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jan, very much.
Thanks.
Yes, you're back.
You stay.
And you just stay there because you've got the next one, Hokitika Central Business District Christmas lights.
Again, I'll take.
Quiet, please, councillors.
Again, I'll take the report as read. Just making note that I've got it in the report, the lights will pay for themselves after year 2. The idea with this is to reduce maintenance costs. It takes a lot of equipment getting the lights up. They are old, they are corroded, they're in need of replacement. And we're not proposing to move any of the locations where we're putting them up. We're not proposing to move any power points or install additional power points, because I believe that will be unnecessary additional costs that we don't need at the moment. So it's purely keeping them in the 4 positions where they currently are, but putting a better system in place so we can reduce labour costs and getting them installed and removed after the festive season, and also having a better system to prevent some of the lights knocking against each other with the wind and the storms. And so it's purely to remain to lower maintenance costs on that going forward.
Councillor Neil.
They'll pay for themselves after 2 years.
Well, what I mean by that is the cost of maintenance over 2 years would be the same as the cost of doing the initial cost of buying the system now. After 2 years, you would have paid off what you would have spent on it.
Yeah, thank you. But it would still be cheaper for option 4, just don't install any.
That is correct.
Paul.
Through your worship, have we gone back to Destination Hokitika to see if they're prepared to fundraise for it again?
We have not. Have to go back to
Before we are, before we put it on the right place?
Councillor Beard.
I love Christmas and I love Christmas lights, but I just don't think we should spend 23,000 this year. But I'm all for if we can fundraise, get it that way, but definitely not on the ratepayers. But I'm all for a fundraise or.
Councillor Burnham.
Yep, love Christmas lights. Think well done, Jan, on working the system of how to put them up and all that. I see it as a nice to have. I don't think we can afford it. I was heavily involved in raising $70,000 originally for the Christmas lights. So if the community wanted, I say they fundraise for it. I just think that it's a nice to have. And we simply just can't afford it.
Drive all around town and we'll have Christmas displays on the front lawn, but.
All right. Councillor Beard, sorry.
I definitely, I would definitely put my name forward to organise some kind of fundraising or talk to, was it Destination Western or Development West Coast or someone, but definitely not great.
Councillor Lampson.
So who owns the lights? It's
The lights that we've got at Bugger, don't they?
who owns it?
Yeah, correct. Destination Hokitika fundraised for them the second year the council were asked if they could take, when Bruce Smith wanted to take one of, well, the ownership was transferred to council by the request of the meeting.
Clarification.
So just, now that the cost and that is coming up, I think, there's quite a strong community group out there that like to have those lights going, and I think I'd like to give them the opportunity, for that community group to fundraise to get those lights going at Christmas time. So give them a couple of months to do that, and just defer this.
Well, read the room and move option 4 of this.
So it's all well and good to say option 4, but do we want to actually add something into there that it will go back to the wider community and business sector, the consultation on a means of fundraising, the lights for this season coming?
Not on the basis that we would then step in automatically.
No,
That
no.
we would consider it again.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Because I know there's people out there that are really keen on it.
Yes, agree.
And the visitors to town that we get during that season, it's, they'll up their Christmas killing and everything else, but I think, the new concept is fantastic. And going forward, having them looked after, storage of them, et cetera. But, definitely I think we should look at some other options.
So we have a motion on the table for option 4. That is a finite, no, we're not, and we're not doing anything else. Are we looking at an amendment to that motion?
Move it as it is and cancel it.
Yeah, I'd like to get an amendment to it. I'd like to give the opportunity for people in the community to a couple of months to fundraise to upgrade those lights.
We've got to go around first.
The motion doesn't include.
So the motion is that option 4 is is the moved motion and seconded by Councillor Neal. If we want to amend it, we will have to go through this. Sorry?
So I was going to say, that motion does not preclude people in the community doing it.
Well, I think it's better to actually quantify that in that comment rather than just leave it, because at the moment that just stands no financial implications. The local community may feel that council's neglecting blah, blah, blah. That's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about seeing if we could generate some form of interest in creating formation of Christmas lights for the township, aren't we?
If we refer it to destination.
Well, that's the other option, is we refer it to them. So let's go back to the initial motion, which is option 4, and if you want to have it, that we defer it to destination Hokitika, or we go back out. Sorry, Jane? I think we have to.
Is there support for the amendment?
Yeah, I'll support it.
I think it's redundant.
You have to vote on the amendment.
Yes. On the motion, the first motion. Yes, all right.
We've got a motion.
We've got a motion
on the
we have to deal with.
That's been moved and seconded, we have to deal with that, and then we can go to amendment.
So, all in favour of the initial motion, which is just plain option 4 with no variance to further communication or anything else? Or no, taking it out to destination Westland? It's 1, 2, 3. 3 against. With a look to having an amendment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that motion failed. So now we'll throw it back out to Councillor Davidson. Now you wanted to put a motion forward that it's option 4 with an added amendment to that we have a discussion with destination Hokitika and the wider community as to somebody else picking up this going forward. Second that. Thank you, Councillor. All in favour?
So can we just find out what the repercussions are if there's no one wanting to take it up?
Well, we won't be taking it up because we've got that option.
That's right.
Council do not install them, but they have a conversation.
So it's option 4, but with that additional sentence saying that it will go out for discussion to Destination Hokitika and the wider business community, and if nobody picks it up, then it's null and void. So that motion's carried.
And we can't be bothered to say
You got that?
So we're gonna just leave the word in.
Okay, so the amended wording as councillors please, we've got no financial implications, that it's taken out to Destination Hokitika and the wider business, or that is the business sector.
And I move it wrong.
Well, I think other community groups as well.
Yes, and community groups.
Because you've got another community group that puts up the Christmas
Yes,
tree down here,
yes,
you've got other people
yes.
that might be interested in funding it.
For interest to funding or fundraising for lights.
So,
Well, we
just
just take a lead.
clarification, there's two separate issues here. There's purchasing the new lights and then there's the annual installation of them. So there's two. Are we talking about council has nothing to do with it, or council is not buying them, they want someone else to pay that bill, but council will then fund the installing of them every year as they have been?
Well, it's got in there option 3, install Christmas lights, cost to repair and install will increase annually with the current at just under 13K. Project is funded through the WDC annual plan lighting budget. So that would
stay in place.
That would stay in place. Is that correct, isn't it?
Haven't we already passed them?
We're just checking.
Well, what I'm trying to work out is if a community group goes out and fundraises the 26,000 to purchase the lights and the frames and the wires and whatever they need, and then there's no way of actually putting them up.
Through the chair, there is an operational budget that is utilised at the moment.
Thank you.
And the capital is already set in play, but.
Thank you for that clarification. So the motion was option 4 with the added amendment that this will go to Destination Hokitika and community groups for interest to funding or fundraising for the lights.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there'll be no operational costs from council.
It's in the budget.
It's already in the budget.
It's already in the budget.
No capital, but operational.
Okay, so, and that was carried?
Installation costs, which are an operational cost which are rated.
Option 4 saying we do not install them, so there shouldn't be any cost associated with not installing them because we're not installing them.
That's what I was trying to get clarification on.
If we're not installing them, there's no installation cost, am I wrong?
Yeah, this is where that amendment falls over.
And they get lights, they have to be installed. There's an operational budget for that, but it's rated. So it costs the ratepayers. That's what I think.
So if you go down that path, you're actually still incurring costs of the rate part. Option 4 as it is, without amendment, says no capital, no operational. But if you make that amendment and you find a group to take up that option, then we're liable for
Right.
operation.
So
that's what I was trying to get clarification on.
Yeah.
Right,
So
can
you
we-
know what you're voting for.
Right, sorry?
So that 26 to 29.
I can't put bonds like that.
Well, this is going to end up being not just a one-off, it's where it goes from there.
Can council not meet it halfway? Like, can't you bloody install the lights and someone raises the money for it?
Thought so. Yeah. So let's just define that a little bit more, reverting to the former standing of council installing the lights. Council installing the lights as per historical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Assuming someone actually buys the lights.
And we're fundraising for the lights, council will be installing the lights each year as per former agreement. Right, so that is the amendment. This will go out to option 4, destination, this will go to Destination Hokitika and the community groups for interest in funding or fundraising for the lights, with council installing the lights each year as per the former agreement. Right.
So, sorry, but you said option 4.
Yes, we've made the amendment to it. So this, we're not paid for them.
I don't know, it's hard, I don't think it could be.
So,
Let's assume no one
that is the
does,
amendment.
just to
Do,
clarify.
we have the same mover and seconder to that. All in favour of that amendment?
I'm sorry, I still don't understand the amendment. Can I
If
please
no one
see the
buys,
amendment?
It is carried.
no one buys any lights, and there's no lights to put up, are we
And
just
there's no
going to do charades with the operational costs and just put people up and down cherry pickers with imaginary lights?
Been carried that.
The amendment negated the motion.
What are you standing for?
That's all right, well, I-
Can we go one more time, please?
Look, this is over Christmas lights. Can we just get some common sense in here?
No, I'm sorry, Helen, it's got to be clear to us.
Yes, it does have to be
We can't
clear.
vote if we don't understand, if we don't think that motion makes sense. And I thought that, to me, the amendment negated the motion. They didn't go together. If they don't go together,
It does with the inclusion that council will install the lights each year as per the former agreement.
but in that case, you can't call it option 4 with an amendment, because option 4 is do not install the lights.
No.
I'm not trying to be obnoxious here, I'm just
I
saying.
think Jane's quite right, it's a completely new motion. It's a completely
Yes, so
new
make a
motion.
new motion and don't
It's really
say.
a new option.
So, option 5. So, we will create a new option, and that will be that what was just read before, which is we will take this out to Destination Hokitika and the community groups for interest in funding or fundraising for the Christmas lights, with council installing the lights each year as per the former agreement, if such fundraising is successful.
Well put, I'll move it.
Thank you, councillor Monero. Councillor Beard seconded. All in favour?
Aye.
Who's Jan, like
Against?
alluded
Do you want your,
It's going to be easy.
do you want your votes against recorded?
Absolutely.
Councillor Phelps, Councillor Leck, Councillor Neal. Can we just, yes, yes.
Through the chair, in response to councillor Burton's question regarding Camp Square, it was funded through depreciation reserves.
Yes, thank you. It's good to have that clarified too. Thank you, Jane. So install the lights each year as per the former agreement. If such funding is successful, yes. Right, and that's been recorded against as councillor Phelps, Gillette and Neal, and it's carried. Thank you very much, Jan. Right, so can I move a second, please, that the report be received, and that option 5 is the preferred option, which was the amendment, being that we'll go out to Destination Hokitika and community groups for interest in funding or fundraising for the Christmas lights, with council installing the lights each year as per the former agreement if such funding is successful.
That motion not just been moved by.
Yes, but we haven't received a report, so this is just the whole package, closing off that whole presentation. Councillor Monero, Councillor Beard, thank you. All in favour of receiving the report and the amendment? Right, against?
Do we want to discuss which decorations should be bought, like there should be a cat?
No, we were just here to
Sorry.
manage that. Right, changing to the building levy. Anna, if you could come forward, please, and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
Anna, sorry.
So I can take it that the report has been read, and is there any questions on it? It's a simple legislative change where MB has decided to increase the value of work where the levy is applied. It was previously 20,444 and they've decided to increase it to 65,000. So it means that you actually pay less fees. So it was incorporated in the document. It's right at the very back. It's duplicated, so it still says 20,444. We just need to amend it.
I was just going to move the motion because it's administrative.
Right.
If there's any other questions.
Just with the chair, what are the financial implications? Are we collecting less fees on pieces of trivial?
There's no change. It's a simple transaction. So we basically act as the agency. We collect the fee and pass the fee. So it doesn't change any of the fees or charges that we collect for consenting across for the rest of the functions, just for that levy.
If we move 10.1 and 10.2.
Oh, sorry, I have a question.
Councillor Neal.
Or comment. Maybe you should have noticed this in previous presentations. But, no, I don't mean, I mean, as it stands, it says $91 or 0.065% of 125,000. So actually, once it's more than 125,000, yeah. So you'd be better to make sure the value's 826 and only pay $81. Like it doesn't line up.
Oh, so that's for the online consenting fee. So that's what the Alpha One or the no called objective bill. That's the software licensing fees that they charge to us. So that's a fee by them that they pass on. So we collect that again. That's nothing to do with the MBSV, what the report states to. But
Okay, thank you. So maybe it should be pointed out to them that there's a
that's in our contract with them, but I will definitely pass that back to them.
And sorry, one more question because it wasn't part of it. When will we start doing more inspections remotely? 'Cause there's quite a bit in the news recently about the council doing a lot more remote inspections.
Yes, so there's a lot of legislation changes that will need to go through for that to happen. There'll be some changes to the BCA manuals as well, because at the moment, 47% of inspections pass, and so 53% fail. So this would mean we wouldn't actually be on site a lot more of the time. So there'll be a big change in legislation driving that. That will actually increase some costs going forward because the software that we'll need to purchase to do it, the software licenses. So we're probably 6 to 12 months away before that being completed.
Why is that going to cost more? Right, they'll just be sending videos?
No, so the inspection software, so there's a whole heap of science that goes behind it of actually whether you're on site. And there was a really good, sorry, this is completely off topic, but there was a really good presentation at the Boyne seminar just recently in the North Island where an inspector went and did a dummy inspection and showed it to the Boyne's conference and said, is everyone happy with it? And then they said, that was great, really impressed. And he said, now let me show you what I didn't show you. And then he went back around and there were several large fundamental flaws with the construction that should have been picked up and it should have been saved. So there'll be a big drive and change. There's some benefits for definitely. If you don't have remote access, or sorry, if you don't have connectivity and you're remote, that could obviously be a bit of a problem. With connectivity being a lot more available across the district as a whole, it'll definitely make it easier going forward to be able to pick that up and run with it. We have looked at the software previously. It was just the $20,000 cost that it was going to cost to get it. That we didn't.
We've seen more figures broken down. Is it going to make it more expensive for the clients? Yes.
Yeah, and there's a level of trust that goes with that as well, because obviously you can only see certain things on site, and some things obviously you can't test the moisture content of a timber frame if you're not on site. Depth perception from videos and photos can also look like one thing, can look like something's a lot closer or a lot further away, depending on how that works as well. So the government will definitely push that forward to us when it's actually going to happen, and then as and when it happens, we'll just put the steps in place to make it happen.
Move to 2.2.
Right, thank you, councillor Casson, seconded by councillor Phelps, all in favour?
Right.
All right, thank you, Anna. That's the report received and adopted with fees and charges for 2/24/25. Next up, we have Lorraine. I just saw who some of these, yes. The Hokitika Museum redevelopment, please. And Scott is going to conversation.
We're going to do it triplets.
Yes.
I just thought I would just start by doing an overall introduction and then handing over the report to the Reagan Camp. I just thought it might be useful for council just to revisit the background to this project and oversight arrangements. So at the last council meeting, option A was chosen by councillors, and we were asked to come back and give more specifics about what was actually contained within option A, plus also the exhibition that was being proposed. The overall project is being overseen by a project working group, which actually consists of myself, Jan, Earl Bensich, Lorraine, and Marcus Waters, who's the new community services manager who starts on Monday. Within that, the fit-out element of the project is something that is being led by the district assets team, supported by Lorraine's team. The aspects that are more in line with the displays and how the museum will look and feel moving forward is Lorraine's area, but the overall thing is very tightly controlled within a group of council. So I just thought I would set that scene before I hand over to Lorraine and Jan to pick out the two elements that they're fronting.
Thank you, Scott, for that.
Good afternoon, I think that the report has been received, and are there any questions? Questions for Lorraine, please? Paul?
I have a few.
Got time, but then again.
No. I'm keeping on the clock.
Kurupona. While I'm supportive of Kurupona coming, it's great to welcome them home. We had time with it's in Kurupona. Kurupona is an exhibition that has travelled the world, been to China, to Paris, been around the country, etc. And finally it's coming back to the home of Ponemu. Great. However, I just feel that it's a little bit of a cheat, really, about reopening the museum. To put that in as a, because it's really, Kurupona is an exhibition, is an installation, and of great interest to us, but it's a very limited, or rather limited audience, to be honest. What about our pioneering history? When does that get tended to? Not until mid-2025. And I just don't think that's good enough. I mean, that's not what the councillors said. We wanted the museum reopened this summer, and reopening with just Kurupona, which, as I say, is wonderful for our aspect of Pōtini-Ngaitahi, but for a lot of people around this room wouldn't give a hoot about Kurupona. Where's our pioneering heritage inside in this and the planning? That's the first thing. The second one was in the cost breakdown, we see architect, design engineer, project management and consenting $187,800. But when we look at what's actually happening and to credit, it have pulled back what was proposed, the building components. But what we're doing now is taking a few doors off the hinges, slapping a new coat paint on, recarpeting. Why does it need $187 worth of architect, design engineering, project management? When Jan could be doing project management of that, I just don't see that is necessary. You go down to the exhibition installation, is $272,000, which is barely changed from what we had last month. But we still haven't had a breakdown, which we asked for. What is that cost? The exhibition installation, we didn't have it then, haven't got it now. Why? What is that cost? Is that for making the stuff that goes on the wall? Is it for the plinths?
If I can on that one, Paul, is that something that we did not ask of the last one? We brought it down to the 600,000 budget and no definition was asked for on those costs that were sitting in there.
With respect to your Bishop, I did ask for it, because I noted it straight away. I said, well, we have that breakdown of the building cost, which was taking out doors and cutting holes in walls and covering up the fireplace and the windows and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So I said, but we don't have a breakdown of that $272,000.
We did discuss some of those points at the last meeting with that. Scott?
Yeah, I just want to, this is the subject that generates a lot of interest. I get that, and it continues to generate a lot of interest. The key issue for us today, in terms of what we knew we could bring to the table, was demonstrating that the
fit out element of it, wasn't going to leave anything out. That we didn't do something and then suddenly found you couldn't open the doors because you didn't have a cash payment system or you didn't have a firewall. All that kind of stuff we wanted to make sure. There are elements of this which have still got to be finessed. And that's the piece of work that Laurie can do with her team on that piece of expenditure, or saying you want some more detail. That detail's not quite there yet. But if we wait until we get the totality in place, we're not moving ahead with the project, making sure that the timelines we get open. So we were trying to segment this in a way that we could satisfy council that there was clarity of purpose in what we were trying to do in terms of getting the fit out through, but also that we could then get on with the timelines that we need to get the doors open.
Lorraine, can you just clarify 1.2 with the Panamu display? I thought that was going to go in, and then everything else would carry on behind, being prepared for when that finished. Was that not?
Yes. So the Panamu exhibition opened in December and closed in April, with the rest of the furniture put out, what that may be, for the rest of the official opening of June 25.
So far,
Councillor Glenn.
I just see this report's just a minor improvement on what we were looking at last time around. It's getting kind of embarrassing that we are still debating a museum. I think I agree with Paul that we all sat here and voted for 600,000, but we didn't know what we were getting when we walked away. And we wanted to know what we were getting, and I still don't know what 272,000 gives us. And I agree that 187,000 on project management with the base bill to 125 seems a little bit out of balance somehow. So there's no clarity to me as to what 600,000 is going to look like when we open the door, apart from a Panamu display.
We'll just have that answer first, Paul. Thanks.
Sorry, so just on the question of the 180 that Paul raised, so we still have to do heritage impact assessment, and we still have to do resource consent because there's heritage fabric in buildings, so there's a lot of that still needs to happen. With scaling down the project, we did manage to get away with not doing building consent by changing some of the work we're doing in the building. So we did scale that down as far as we could, but we still have to do resource consent, which entails doing some work. However, I'm happy to provide a further breakdown on what that cost exactly is. And
what is the exhibition? The 272,000. What will we see when if we walked in there? I just thought there might be some drawings, conceptual ideas as to what the exhibitions were.
If I can on that, I mean, we're not curators and we're not museum managers, and I don't think, excluding probably Paul here, or potentially Vice with the Panamu Pathway, we don't actually have a lot of skill base in design, layout, and how that looks. So that is where we have to put the element of trust into the staff of the museum, because that is their skill base, that is their background, that's why they're employed to do what they're doing. We are here on the government side, and we've already looked at that as far as the budget goes, and we've printed that down to 600. We've got, as Scott said, we've got himself, we've got Jan, we've got Lorraine, we've got the new community manager coming into this to actually ensure that those costings work out. If there's some further breakdown required, I'm quite sure they'll be willing to bring that back and show us what that looks like. But in the meantime, every time we put a roadblock in there, things are stopping. So at some stage, this project, because we've agreed to the 600k spend, this project needs to start, it needs to be able to actually progress, because the Panamu, it's got to be ready for the Panamu presentation when that arrives in December. And I'm quite sure that that will be managed and presented in the best possible layout that could be done. And it will allow them to do and carry on with all the works behind that as far as what the future layout and presentations are going to look like. So, you know, at some stage, everybody, we've got to put that element of trust into the team that are managing this, because that's what they're engaged for. We've got to remember that we're not there to micromanage ourselves, we're there to ensure that the governance side of it is adhered to. Councillor Kessler.
On the flip side of that coin, it was only a month ago we agreed to a budget of 600,000, and we're already projecting a budget over that. Sure, it's only $140, but I don't know how much confidence we take in being presented with a budget that's already over the amount that we said was the northern limit less than a month ago.
Well, I think most people, when they've got a budget, if they see there's actually already an overrun, it means really that they go back and actually tweak it. They don't come back to us, and these guys know that. They don't come back to us and say, oh, this month we're over by 80,000 or this or that. They know what they've got to manage that back to being within the budget, because we've already had that discussion saying that there is no extension to the budget.
Page 58 of the agenda already shows a cost escalation. It's only $140, but it's still north of the ceiling we gave last month. So hard to find confidence in that, if I was being honest.
And on that note, the past year or two, we've had cost overruns on the museum and swimming pool, which people have been coming back and asked the ratepayers for more money, and we've voted on that and given it to them, so.
We can put things through the chair. Jan.
Sorry, just to clarify, the option A that was put forward was for 602,000 from the 602. It's not an overrun on what we put forward, or what was put forward by the museum itself as option A. Also, if there's saving that needs to be made of $140, I'm pretty sure.
It wouldn't be hard to make. We talk about 600,000, whether it's 602, then sweet. If it's under budget, great. But from our perspective, if we've said 600, that's the number we're talking about, then understand that go over by a month is an issue for us.
Paul.
Through your worship, so in relation to your comment, your worship, that we have to get this building fit to open for Kuraponamu, agreed. But that's not terribly onerous, to be honest. It's just a matter of making sure that we've got subbies that are able to lay the carpet and slap the paint on and give someone a screwdriver, take the doors off, job done. I don't see where this all this expense is, honestly. Can I ask, is that consultant still on board?
Richard Bullock?
Yes. Why?
He is a specialist in heritage buildings.
And that's an element of the funding requirement.
And within that, he's already...
No, somebody with that heritage.
He is already leveraging benefit on some of the flooring materials and other things as well. I think one of the areas that I think I need to share with councillors is that Jan is very good at what he does. Jan is young, and there are capacity limits on what just how many things with some games directly control. So we need to balance the work that he does and supplement it sometimes from other places.
Okay, but I come back to I'm not simplifying things, but I mean, it is a recarpeting, it is a repaint, and it is simply taken off 4 doors off their hinges and then fixing up the skirting boards.
As we said, we're more than happy to give you a detailed breakdown of what those costs actually.
I think it's more than a detailed breakdown. I think it needs to be, it needs a reality check, and that needs to come out. And I mean, so what we've got basically is here we are down the track again after a lot of argument, unfortunately, and we've got a project that's cost which is half of what it was a month ago, but we've got the same deadline, which is winter 2025. So,
well, we haven't, because we've got the Pounamu presentation starting in December.
No, what I'm saying is that that is a bit of a ruse, though, isn't it? Because it's actually an art exhibition, is what it is. A beautiful one, in my view, but it is an art exhibition. That is not the museum. That is not what these councillors were saying a month ago. We want our museum reopened. We want, just do it. Just don't reopen.
So again, there is a project plan timeline that sits behind this that actually stages what needs to be done at what date and what the critical path things are. So again, more than happy to share that with you.
Through your worship, I mean, still that timeline is still targeted to June, July 2025.
Well, the timeline's targeted to as quickly as we can get it done.
That's the outside date, isn't it? Yes, and if I can remind everybody, actually, the reasoning for this presentation is actually that we approved the unbudgeted expenditure and approved the opening of the Hokitika Museum in December 2024 with Kuraponamu, a treated stone subject to support from local iwi partners. That is actually what the discussion point is with this presentation.
Well, respect to your worship, and then surely it's discussion about the whole project and has it, this is the response that's come back as in response to the concerns from the councillors. So it's not just simply a matter of councillors saying, rubber stamp, done. You know,
No, but we
we're
do
on to-
need to look at the unbudgeted expenditure of the Kurapunamu presentation, because that is what this specific discussion needs to be considering, because that is the motion that will be either across the board or not in this discussion. And we actually have to spend no time actually looking at the funding of that and what that looks like. So that is something that everybody must bear in mind, because that is the overall point of this discussion. Yes, you've got concerns, Paul, and Scott and the team have heard those. And I think we can agree that
We will take the cost of this up within the total cost envelope at 602.
Yep.
Of Kurapunamu.
The 200,000 will be in.
No, the 15,000, whatever number it there, we will pick up within the total cost envelope.
So we expenditure to approve.
So if we no longer just have the Kurapunamu exhibition, then just open the museum up.
we are having the Kurapunamu exhibition.
I wasn't for your worship, we want the Kurapunamu exhibition.
Yeah.
It is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
So we do want it.
Yes.
It's just that, yeah, it's that we want the rest of it as well. We want, and we wanted the museum in total reopened sometime, and we're not going to get it until winter next year, which is not what, that was not what the council has asked for. But
That is,
I
and
made
you
the
are
point-
correct with that, but when we first said that too, that was before we actually knew about the Kurapunamu exhibition coming. It was after we'd actually started that discussion, that side of it, because we were, I think, collectively looking at the fact that the museum would be open, showcasing those museum artefacts that we have there, and then the Kurapunamu opportunity came into that discussion. So that is something that we haven't actually asked Lorraine, is how much of the floor space is that going to take?
The two front galleries, gallery 1 and 2, which is on your left as you enter the building, 2 large spaces.
And that will enable you then to carry on preparation of the other areas.
So, going back to, if I could just respond to.
I've got my hand up.
Sorry, I just respond to Paul. A lot of the criticalities that we get in these kind of projects is around, it's not actually the doing bit, which is the putting the flooring down, changing the doors and the issues that you're raising. It's around what are the consenting requirements, whose approvals do you need, and how long is it going to take them? And some of those things, even if you change the nature of the totality of the project, those timelines still come. So going back to what Jan was saying earlier on, which is we've managed to do it in a way that means we don't have to get building consent, that actually helps. But that doesn't take away the consenting issues that you've got.
It's not insurmountable.
No, we're not insurmountable.
They require consultants. in my view.
So we will try to do this as quickly as we can. You know, that we're not wanting to delay projects beyond reasonable time. We want to see it open.
Regarding the multi-exhibitions of the permanent displays, I'll re-offer to help with that.
I will take you up on that, we'll have a chat afterwards.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. It's, you know, just to be able to get our stories out here.
Absolutely. We can take that room if that's all right.
But that's only part of the story, of course. And the rest of it, yeah, anyway,
Thank you for that offer, Paul. That is wonderful. And I saw 3 faces up there smiling with that, so that is good. Councillor Beard.
What is the entry fee going to be for the museum to be reopened? Like, you know, if I was to.
Locals are free.
Well, just what is the fee?
Locals are free and outputs, you know, national and international are $6.
Councillor Phelps.
Through your worship, say we didn't proceed with the Kurapunamu exhibit, would that free up your staff and capacity to just get on with the other exhibits?
No, but I think what we were aiming to do was have the building open, which a lot of our public parks and with a first-rate exhibition.
And this would be a rather nice way to actually start that, the doors open for that. If we can have some containment in the
So just
public arena, please.
supplementary, so your staff have no involvement with Te Rauponga in terms of the installation of the
No,
arrival?
I'll install it, leaving the team to continue with the curatorial content.
Sorry about that interference from behind you. Councillor Casson.
I was happy to move 9.1 and amended 9.2, given Scott has said the $602,000 package from the funding for the Te Rauponga exhibition. So if we take out approves the unbudgeted expenditure and happy to move 9.2.
Councillor Neal, thank you. Is everybody in favour of that amendment first and foremost before we pass it? It looks like it is. So with that, resolution is that the report be received, and point 2, that council approves the opening of the Hokitika Museum on December 2024 with Kura Pounamu, our treasure stone, subject to support from local iwi partners. You good with that, Councillor Casson, as you moved it? Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Councillor Casson, Councillor Neal. Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Scott, for that.
Just like to challenge Paul's comment that some of us around here would want to see the Kura Pounamu, because I'd really go and see that.
So would I. Yes. Oh, she didn't agree, but I'm not worried. It's not her agenda. It's, you know, she's entitled to her opinion, as is everybody. But, yeah, it's how you voice that in the arena. Right, so meeting-wise, we are over the 2-hour mark now, so we can either resolve that the meeting go beyond the 2 hours in accordance with standing orders at 7 minutes past 3, and move into Scott's council headquarters structural upgrade and the warrant of appointment, or we can break for 10 minutes and then come back in for the final 2 parts of the agenda. What is the...
I think we should carry on because
What time do you have to go, Tinker?
About 10 minutes time.
All right, so this may well be done by then, in which case we've just got the warrants, which you won't be too worried about not being here. Sorry, Francois?
No, I'm going to go on this one.
Okay, so is everybody in support of carrying on the meeting? Have I got agreements around the table that everybody's happy for the meeting to carry on? Okay, cool. All right, so I just need a move and a seconder, please, to resolve that the meeting go beyond 2 hours in accordance with standing orders, and that will be at 3:08 p.m.
Yes.
Councillor Baird, Councillor Burden, thank you very much. Right, Scott, the floor is yours for the council headquarters structural upgrade.
Thank you. You can just move into 2 minutes on the computer to tell yourself what's going on.
You're looking for a report.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up actually. So sorry,
Go ahead.
I'd like to take the report as read, but I'd just like to give some context and discussion points. I mean, clearly this has been a long-standing project, which has kindly come into a head. Key issue I think that we will bring into the table is that the environment has changed. And money is increasing and rights levels are increasingly a concern in the locality. And there's a number of things that we need to balance. Something that Councillor Coates mentioned earlier on is, you know, the health, welfare and safety of staff. And people need to work in a good, wholesome environment. You know, it helps with productivity, it helps with the delivery of the role. But that also has to be balanced against what we need to do with the organisation, how much things cost. And also the fact that we now, with the change in the Three Waters legislation, have got a number of projects that we thought other people were going to pay for, that now at the moment we have to pay for. And if I can remind councillors that we delayed the LTP process by a year because we were unsure about what the long-term funding for water was going to be. And we were anticipating that during the interim period that we would get some direction on where the funding would come from. Well, it's not any clearer than it was before. And certainly the discussions that we've had internally, and I've had discussions with Leslie as Group Manager for Corporate Services, is not just around what is your headroom in your loan covenants that allows you to borrow money, but also how are you going to pay it back and who's going to pay it back, and how that actually manifests itself across different rating groups. So there's a piece of work that we're going to do, which is to start to unpick what's in the long-term plan and to start to map out in detail who that impacts on, and then do an assessment on affordability levels. What you don't want is to find that you've agreed a whole series of projects in the LTP, to find that it's one group that seems to be, for want of a better phrase, copying a lot on the rates. So we need to do that piece of work. The opportunity presented by the potential change in government policy on earthquake strengthening means we've got a window of opportunity not to just kick the can down the road and have a more expensive project in 4 years' time, because I'm acutely aware that that's a potential with this, but actually to go, are there options that we might have considered that we didn't in the way that we locate our staff in the area? And that's a piece of work that we need to do as part and parcel of this. So, me sort of blurbing on quite a lot, but I'm trying to outline my and our thought processes and how we brought this paper to council. Quite have to take that.
And thank you for that, Scott. And you haven't gone on, you've actually put the explanation behind for everybody, which has been excellent. Thank you for that. Councillor Neil?
What's the feelings of staff continuing to work in this building for another 4 years, given the health and safety comments have been made?
That's a conversation on first thing tomorrow morning. First thing tomorrow morning. So we have a staff meeting here where we normally give feedback to staff on what council have discussed. We've talked within the team about there are things that need to be done to this building. There are issues around airflow, we had issues around mould growth last year. We want to sit down with the staff and say, look, this is the position we've got, these are our thoughts, and share that with you.
I do think that there are other options, potential options that should have been looked at. Always have thought that, but very reluctant to approve this without knowing the staff and the
Well, I mean, the short answer is I haven't discussed it with staff yet. And there is a chicken and egg with that, which is you talk to staff and then councillors say, well, you talk to us first, or conversely. You talk to councillors and staff say, well, you talk to us first. So, yeah.
Councillor Beard.
I think things aren't getting cheaper. I think if we defer it, it's never going to be as cheap as what the option is now, is it?
It depends what.
I mean, we don't want to sit here in 3 or 5 years' time and think, oh, we should have done that. Or
if I was to lob something in sideways, so for example, is an option finding a fire service with a renewable arrangement that's got square meterage that would suit our purposes. Because the other issue that you potentially got coming down the track is we don't know quite yet what's happening with what we're going to do, when the emergency on the table, and if so, what that does to your head count and the amount of space that you need. There's a whole range of things. So again, you need flexibility in terms of what you may wish to do in the future.
I think the thing is too is that, yes, we're all acutely aware of prices going up and things costing more, but it's all well and good to say it costs more. But like Scott said, is that we've got the wastewater treatment plant, which we've now inherited with thanks to Three Waters, and this, so the wastewater treatment plant's going to be upward of 20 mil, sorry. You put this in, we're up to 30 mil. Well, who's going to pay for that?
But that wastewater treatment plant's going to be for the next how many years?
Yes, it's intergenerational debt, Jane, but it's still got to be paid for. And this is what important Bessie have been talking about, is it would be wise to take a breath, just draw breath, and actually have them look at that and say, this is what this is going to be looking like over X amount of years to the ratepayer, with these other factors built in, because it won't be just those things that go on top of the rates. And so we've got a better picture of affordability and how we fund or what we do going forward. It may be that we knock this down and build a building for, I don't know how many million. You know, there's other things that we didn't look at before that we could look at. But I think the fact that there's a responsibility there saying we actually need to look at the overall big picture financial implications, because we could just simply price ourselves straight out of the market as being a very bankrupt council if we're not very careful with how we manage this. Councillor Phelps, I'll come back over to you, Stephen.
Through your worship, say we don't take action, and whatever happens with the earthquake code either way, there's some sort of catastrophic event, fault line could go in the next 10 seconds, it could go in the next 10 days, 10 years, we don't know, and a bunch of people die. What's the implication on the ratepayer then in terms of being liable under potentially the Health and Safety at Work Act or any other legislation because we've been negligent?
Say that it's no different than it was when this building was first identified as being earthquake prone.
No different today or yesterday.
Sorry?
No different today or yesterday.
No, I mean, the issue, I mean, I think the other thing in terms of clarifying.
So there's a non-issue in your view?
Well, no, I mean, staff safety is always.
No, I'm not talking about staff safety. I'm
risk and liability.
I'm talking about the cost of killing people and that coming back on the road.
Well, we don't want to do that.
No, obviously we don't, which is my point. So if we are
the at-risk element is the staircase, and a lot of the costs within this project are resulting from the building consent and compliance issues that kick in the moment we start messing with the building. So if all we had to do was that staircase, it wouldn't be anywhere near 8.4 mil. So that is the driving issue. There's a load of buildings all the way around New Zealand that are in exactly the same position that we've got here. If we were beyond that 4-year date, so if we were beyond June 27 and we'd not taken steps to deal with what we need to deal with, then in my view we're exposed. If the government allow you to do an extra 4 years on it, then provided we've not been negligent in the way that we've operated, then that minimises the exposure that council have got with these things. In terms of the 4 years, it's not to 4 years. So if we all sit round and we do the financial analysis, the number crunching, and it comes out and we go, actually we now know 12 months later it's a fantastic idea to do with spill your boots, we can get on with it. All it will mean is the numbers have shifted by a year. But the critical issue for us goes back to this point of what is the affordability? Do we walk into doing this building knowing that we possibly could do something else, but knowing we have to do a wastewater treatment plant? And my concern would be you get to the point where you have to do something and then find that actually there aren't resources to do it. That's my gripe for this.
Look, I'll just take Councillor Davis's one because I'm aware he's got to go in a minute and we'll go to everybody else.
So when you say you're going to defer for 4 years, but you will continue to re-evaluate what we're doing. So that means, I think, that you could do the upgrade.
2 years' time or 3 years' time?
Once you defer,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I've got to go.
Right, we will see you back when you're back.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. Thank
Okay.
you. Councillor Green.
It's just, I hear what Councillor was saying, but option one, the wording needs to be just altered slightly. It actually specifically states that you defer it for 4 years. It should be up to 4 years or a maximum of 4 years.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Also, I'd quite like to see some rough rates modelling on how 8.4 million would be debt funded and what the rates implications are likely to be.
And that's exactly what Scott and Leslie have been discussing, and the whole management, senior management team have been discussing and looking at, because that's what they're working on. They can bring it back to us, and we've actually not just got the building, we've got the wastewater treatment plants for all, because we've got Franz Joseph and how that looks going forward. Because we're better off to be doing this now than at the start of the LTP next year. It's just crazy to leave it till then. So I actually commend the staff, I commend Scott for taking the lead on this and actually bringing this to the table to us, let them know what we're looking at and why. Because I think this is commendable. It's how we should be looking at things. So thank you very much. Paul, I did promise Paul before the you. Sorry, Paul.
Through your worship, yeah, I think this is a sensible move. But of course, we're only like a few schools away with that black mould from being the Grangemouth police station situation.
Not quite as bad, but yeah.
No, I mean, it's got the same type of roof, and that's what was the cause, and this hasn't exactly been a bit of a leaky ship.
I mean, Jan was involved in the building cleanliness, so I've got to touch on what we found and what we've done and where it sits and the ventilation.
So we did a full biological survey of the entire building, and there was a few things that was highlighted. The mold was one thing. We did over Easter weekend do a full mold clean. If we defer this project, that's something that's going to have to be ongoing. There is items that might have to be looked at. I mean, part of the upgrade was to replace the roof. If that's not happening, then there's certain maintenance that's got to keep on happening. We have to plot that out and see exactly what that is and what the cost of that is. But I mean, there won't be zero cost by not doing the upgrade. There will be maintenance cost and mold cleaning and whatever all that without.
And it will come back to us.
These usual roofs are curse. And we had with another building in town, we were going to rip off the beautiful old roof and replace it with a standard roof. And the cost of doing that was horrendous. So you're stuck with between either coming up with that cost or patching up the beautiful old till the next time it works.
But that's something that they will come back to us with an idea of what that's going to look like, and then we can make that decision from there. Patrick, sorry, Councillor Phelps.
Through your worship, just, I mean, whichever way we slice it or dice it, we've got an $8.4 million cost to pay. We either do that work and it's actually on our balance sheet as debt, or if we don't do it, it's still hanging over our head or under our feet or in the walls or however you want to phrase it. Either way, it's a cost that needs to be met at some stage. It's hanging over our head, right?
Only if we decide to do is building. If you take another option, then no.
But either way, I mean, that assumes that we would leave this building at some stage, and if we did, you'd have to assume that you'd sell it with the 8.4 million capitalised into the building, or minus the 8.4 off the sales price. That's what we need to do to get the building.
No, you'd sell it as is. So you'd sell it as a building that was designated as a playground, because you don't know who was going to buy it. You don't know whether. Because if we remediate it and then somebody gets it and wants to completely remodel it, then they're going to end up doing stuff.
Yeah, no.
And the other thing is, again, if we were to sell it, and there's all caveats with this, somebody may just come along and bulldoze it and do something else. So there's I mean, the issue that you've got as well is when you look at what is the cost of doing the building versus what is the value of the building when you're finished as well. And there's all sorts of numbers that we've got to look at with this. So I think one review that we need to take.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Francois.
Yeah, I reckon, I'm not a fan of kicking the can down the road. However, we might not need a building at some point in time. Freed up the road there is pretty keen on making, one united council. So, what's the chances of us not needing a building in 4 or 5 years' time? So let's just give it a kick.
Yes.
And hopefully it happens.
Unfortunately, that good common sense didn't prevail last time it was put before us, which was a whole new rebuild and vanity project up at the airport, complete with emergency operations centre.
Yes,
Scott, the only cost incurred so far, $143,050. Should option 2 fly today, point 2 fly today, are there any other costs that we're going to be up for this project to date? Obviously, Jan's alluded to the costs of us maintaining residency in here, and there'll be costs of other things.
So the cost, if we opt for the deferral, then the cost for us will be, what is the cost to maintain this building in the interim? And obviously any expenditure that we've done so far getting to where we are today is, if we can just use it and pick it up in the decision in a year's time or 18 months' time to do it. Can I just revisit the comment about kicking the can down the road, because it's one thing that I don't like doing, because it just makes today's problem tomorrow's problem. So that's not what this is about. This is about having a really clear understanding of the financial implications to ratepayers of whatever decision we decide to do, modelled across all the other decisions that we've got to do.
So, further to my question, that $143,000 that's green in the budget currently, that's the only cost we will have to carry for the works done today?
My machine's shut down again. Can you show me the bit?
Page 135 was the last page of the unit.
It's got a problem, I think.
Geotech and structural work, $143,050. There's no other cost to be absorbed should this project, should the deferral happen.
We're not expecting any. We're not expecting any.
So that 143 was the engineering cost that was already paid on Geotech, and the concept structural design and the review of the previous detailed seismic assessment that was done. I just need to make a note that we do have a maintenance budget for this building, but it's pretty much maintaining the building to the point where we're going to do a seismic upgrade. With that not happening, and that's why that's an option in the report. We might need to address some of those items earlier, so there might be a cost to do that. We'll be restricted by what we can do and allowed to do via the consenting system. Obviously, if we trigger a building consent, then that's something we might not be able to do at this moment. But there would be a future report coming out saying we're recommending, if we're staying here not upgrading this building, at least look at these items to sort of stretch out what we've got going at the moment.
Appreciate that, and that's what we need to have that informed if we stay here for another
yes, we have
2, 3, 4 years, what that cost looks like.
And I think one of my big concerns for this is to make sure that staff are comfortable with the proposal, and that, that they don't feel as though it's whatever this is really not what this is about. And hence the discussion that we're having tomorrow morning, where we're going to be talking to staff about that, if you make the decision that's recommended, these are the things we're going to put in place in the interim to make life easier in terms of working environment moving forward.
Yeah, Councillor Beard.
Yeah, through the chair, that's exactly what I was going to say, is you've got to talk to your staff tomorrow to find out.
Yeah.
It's all very well us saying this, but
So
staff that are important.
So going, I mean, some of the discussions that we've had internally about this, knowing that this was, it's one of those which we did first discussions, and I was discussing with Diane about how we deal with tomorrow morning, because normally what you do is you go through the council's agenda order by order, but this is the issue that staff want to talk about, so we're going to go in with this as the immediate discussion point.
I think that some of them actually tune into today, they'll be already aware of the discussion.
Yeah. I've no doubt there'll be a queue.
Do you think that cost implication report will be with us next month, or how far out do you see it?
We need to, there's a bit of time we've got to spend on this, and we want to do it properly. And even down to, when you start to look at the free water stuff, the way that we do waste management, for example, the way the rates are applied depends on, if you're a hotelier, it works in one way, if you're a local person, it works in another way. We need to work out that.
Sorry, for clarity, the report on continuing to keep this as home base for the coming 1, 2, 3, 4 years.
No, the whole thing has got to be tied into what are we spending where and when. So the purpose of it is not to just come back with a report saying this is what this building is going to cost. It will be a report that says this is what this building is going to cost, combined with the capital project for a wastewater treatment plant, combined with and how that all works out. It's looking at the totality of impact of capital expenditure on ratepayers.
Which then is going to give us a really good platform to work from and make future decisions from. Paul?
Go back a few years, I think this was a situation with the museum. It was when the seismic problems with the Carnegie building were highlighted to the staff. I think it was the options about staying, and they just feel safe. And so they were worked out. On building next door.
Yeah.
Is there an option to give staff if they don't feel particularly safe, that they can work from home on an ongoing basis if it's feasible or whatever, or the whole team could think that about that option?
I'm not quite sure that's a conversation that Scott's going to have when he gets a feeling tomorrow with talking to them, because it's...
I mean, I'm quite happy to talk to that, because I mean, hybrid working methods are things that are used all over the place. And in fact, my last employer, we were hybrid and staff working at home and all sorts of things. The issue would be around, one, it doesn't suit everybody. Two, there's an issue about the management style and control that you need to apply for people who are remote workers. Nevertheless, it's worth exploring. The other issue, just to bear in mind for councillors, is if the decision today was, do you know what, just do it, get on with it, spend the 8.4, we would be out of this building during that June 11th, 2027 period because of the logistics of the time for this. If the government come back and say, no, we're not shifting it by 4 years, whatever it is, if we have to move out of here, we have to find somewhere else for people to go anyway, even on a temporary basis. So there is that. For some reason or not, you've still got to leave this building at a certain point in time. Does that help? But going back to your question, I mean, we will talk and see what people want to do. We also have to see whether what they want to do actually is the right way to do it.
I mean, as a good employers, to give them that level of comfort that if they don't feel particularly, if they're stuck in a corner on the bottom floor, for instance, and they just don't think that it's another 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's no suggestion whatsoever of tying people to a chair and saying never leave. You know, this is very much about combining a whole range of things, including staff welfare and the things that we want to do to the building.
I think we're in a really good spot with it because, I mean, as he said, they're going to be talking to the staff tomorrow in their opinion and how they feel. They may want some time to actually really think about it as opposed to just that instant answer. But it's, we're all on the same pathway going forward. We've got to respect the staff's perception with this, but I'm just pleased that Scott's and his team are going to have that discussion with them, and then and they may come back and say, look, we're not happy with that, what you guys have said, so we'll come back and talk about it again.
Can I have a plea to my friends in the press that they don't use that type people to a chair analogy?
Great. Brian, do you, Councillor?
So this building's still got a wire fence in it. It's still safe to be in it. It's not like the museum where it didn't.
No. I mean, the trigger for this is the June 11, 2027 date.
So we can't scare them and say, you got to get out. We've got to be realistic.
Indications from the review that they're doing on the earthquake-prone building system is that if there's an expansion or an extension of 4 years or 6 years or whatever that would be, it's only if you haven't passed your expiry date. So this building's expiry date is the 11th of June 2027. So if we would have been past that expiry date and there was an extension granted, then that wouldn't apply for this building. But again, that's to be confirmed once the review has been completed.
Any further questions? No? So the original motion had by 4 years, so we've just changed that to by up to 4 years to accommodate Councillor Cass's, which makes sense there.
Can we add in line with government direction or something to that accord?
Yes, you can pick up the statement that's in line with the expected determination by government as part of the...
I mean, it's, something
in line with the expected determination.
By government in the review of earthquake-prone buildings.
Side issue, as Councillor Beard said. What is the state with the government building? Has the Heritage New Zealand, I know they've walked away for now, but have they come back and see what the plans are?
I have had a phone call, which was a bit private and confidential, which I'm more than happy to do. But obviously it's not so private and confidential, I can't share it with you. It is something that I probably not want to put out in the public domain at the moment. But I can talk to you afterwards.
So then, through your worship, so the Heritage New Zealand's got a plan for the building though, I mean, because they have kind of made the start, ripped out some of the stuff and then closed the doors and walked away.
They wanted to come and talk to me about a different methodology.
Then.
It wouldn't be. Right, we'll move this back to, to this, just to divert that conversation. So the resolution is that the report be received. Council defers the 8.4 million Western District Council headquarters structural upgrade by up to 4 years in line with the expected determination by government in the current building review. And 3, a proposal be brought back to council for minor building works to address some of the building problems currently being experienced.
Yep.
Councillor Monero, Councillor Kesson, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And of course, Councillor Davidson is absent at this time. So thank you very much, Scott, for that. And Jan for your involvement there, and Leslie for the work that you're doing there. I think we are going down the right path with the review that we're doing. So the final piece on the agenda is, let me make sure it is the administrative resolution, the warrant of appointment. As everybody's already seen, the warrant of appointment is for a compliance team leader. Regarding the statutory appointment, the statutory delegations and enforcement, the discretionary statutory delegations that go with that, and the requirements. Sorry, what? And there's a warrant of appointment for a planning team leader. But the first one is for the compliance team leader, and the second one is for the planning team leader, and their requirement is to act in the Western District as noted 1.1, 2 and 3 on the agenda. So I am after a mover and seconder, please. So we resolve that council to confirm its seal being affixed to the following documents as just noted. Councillor Kesson, Councillor Burden, thank you very much. All in favour? Yes. Carried. Thank you very much, everybody. And with that, I will declare the meeting closed at 3:39 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance and participation.